Bologna, 1526. Winter light spilled through narrow windows, casting geometric patterns across the sparse room. Charts of mathematical symbols adorned the walls like funeral shrouds. In the center, on a simple bed, lay Scipione del Ferro. His skin had the pallor of parchment, stretched taut over arms that seemed more chalk than flesh. Antonio Fier hovered nearby, fingers twisting around themselves, eyes darting between his dying master and the locked wooden chest in the corner. The chest that contained everything. The key! Del Ferro's voice emerged like dust, barely disturbing the air. His eyes remained fixed on some invisible calculation. Guard it. Use it, wisely. It proves dominance. His skeletal hand gestured toward the chest, movement precise despite his weakness. Inside lay the complete solution to the depressed cubic equation, the mathematical jewel he had kept hidden for years. Fear nodded eagerly, stepping closer. Yes, master. I will make you proud. I will challenge the best. They will know the name Del Ferro. But Del Ferro gave no sign of hearing. His gaze had shifted beyond the room's confines, perhaps seeing equations unfolding in the infinite. A final, shallow breath escaped him, and then nothing more. The greatest mathematical mind in Bologna had calculated its final sum. Fear stood motionless, the room suddenly colder. He had inherited power, but not understanding. The key was his, yet its true lock remained mysterious. That night, in a hidden chamber lit by guttering candles, 6 hooded figures gathered around a table strewn with maps of the Italian states and mathematical diagrams. Del Ferro is dead. The speaker's voice was soft but urgent. Borgia's influence wanes. But the equation, it is out there. Fear holds it, like a child playing with fire. A child indeed, scoffed another. The cubic solution was never meant for such hands. It is a corruption, born of division, of self-sacrifice. A third figure leaned forward, candlelight glinting off a medallion bearing an intricate geometric pattern. Corruption? Or evolution? It proves man can grasp the infinite, command our three-dimensional world. We should seek fear, secure the method for the order's true purpose. The eldest among them had remained silent, listening. Now he spoke, voice creaking with age. There are whispers, another. Not from Bologna. Someone who might grasp the equation, but learned it through pain, not tutelage. A man marked by violence, from Brescia. Silence fell as they considered this new variable in their ancient calculation. Brescia, 1512. Cannon fire tore through the morning fog. Screams punctuated the thunder of boots on cobblestones. French soldiers poured through the streets, steel glinting in the smoke-diffused light. Young Niccolò Fontana pressed his thin body against the cold stone of the church alcove. At 12, he was already adept at mathematics, finding in numbers a refuge from the chaos of life. But no equation could solve the violence consuming his city. The church doors splintered. Soldiers burst in, voices harsh with conquest. Niccolò tried to make himself smaller, invisible, a zero value in the cold calculation of plunder. A shadow fell across him. A French soldier, eyes wild, saber raised. Niccolò opened his mouth to speak, but sound became agony as metal slashed across his face. He fell, the world dissolving into fractured images as blood pooled around him on the sacred stone. Venice, 1534. Candles burned low in Niccolò Tartaglia's workshop. Now in his 30s, his face bore the permanent mark of that day in Brescia, a jagged scar that cut across his lips, teeth and tongue, forever altering his speech. It had given him his new name, Tartaglia, the stammerer. Pages of calculations surrounded him like a fortress. Diagrams of ballistic trajectories lay beside pure mathematical inquiries. On his current sheet, the cubic equation stared back at him, insolent in its complexity. "I will break you," he whispered to it, the stutter a constant reminder of what had been taken from him. "As I was broken." His hand moved over the page with surprising grace. Where Del Ferro had approached the cubic through cold division, Tartaglia's method flowed more organically, like water seeking its level. The cubic and its roots danced for him, revealing their secrets not through rote calculation, but through a kind of mathematical empathy. That night, Tartaglia dreamed of a fractured man whispering backward truths. Del Ferro's ghostly form appeared, his voice distorted. "Esiferkas tuo tazidar sullen, arbmut se susubisi." Geometric patterns swirled around Tartaglia, pulling at his consciousness, inviting him to dissolve into their infinite recursion, to divide himself endlessly for knowledge. He awoke with a gasp, sweat soaking his nightshirt. "No," he muttered, touching his scar. "No, not that way. There must be another way." The next morning, he locked his notes on the cubic solution in a hidden compartment. What he had discovered through pain, he would not surrender lightly. The piazza buzzed with the energy of gossip and commerce. Merchants haggled, lovers whispered, children darted between stalls. But all fell quiet as the herald raised his trumpet. "Hear ye! Antonio Maria Fier, student of the late, great Scipione del Ferro of Bologna, does hereby challenge Niccolò Tartaglia of Brescia to a contest of mathematical skill. 30 questions apiece. 40 days for resolution. Let the finest mind prevail." Tartaglia stood in the crowd, face impassive despite the whispers that rippled around him. Across the square, Fier preened, surrounded by admirers. "Let's see if the stammerer's mind is as halting as his tongue," Fier announced loudly to a companion. "My master's key will unlock this victory easily." Tartaglia's eyes narrowed, but he remained silent, merely nodding his acceptance of the challenge. Inside, a fire ignited, not just for victory but for vindication. Days blurred into nights. Tartaglia's workshop transformed into a battlefield of intellect. Papers covered every surface, ink-stained fingers moved from problem to problem. The 30 challenges Fier had set him all centered on one thing: cubic equations. A transparent attempt to showcase Del Ferro's method. Meanwhile, Fier's initial confidence faltered as he confronted Tartaglia's diverse challenges. Problems of geometry, arithmetic, and algebra that required genuine mathematical versatility, not a single formula. On February 12th, one day before the deadline, Tartaglia stared at his final calculations. The solution had come to him in a moment of clarity, not as a mechanical process, but as an insight that seemed to arise from the wound itself. As if his broken speech had somehow granted him access to mathematics' deeper rhythms. The next day, exchanges were made. Tartaglia handed over his solutions with quiet dignity. Fier's face drained of color as he realized Tartaglia had solved all 30 of his cubic problems. His own incomplete answers to Tartaglia's diverse challenges felt paltry in comparison. "The results are clear," announced the lead judge in the packed Venetian hall. "Master Fier has failed to solve any of Master Tartaglia's problems. Master Tartaglia has answered all 30 questions posed by Master Fier correctly. Victory goes decisively to Niccolò Tartaglia." The hall erupted in cheers and exclamations. Scholars slapped Tartaglia's back. Students gazed at him with newfound reverence. Fier slunk away, humiliation burning on his face. Yet Tartaglia took no joy in the moment. He declined the prize money with a gesture, and his eyes held a wariness that belied his triumph. That night, alone in his chamber, he clutched his notes close. The world now knew he possessed the key to the cubic, but the key felt heavier than ever, a burden rather than a prize. Milan, 1539. Girolamo Cardano's voice filled the university lecture hall, weaving together medicine, mathematics, and philosophy with the ease of a master craftsman. Unlike the austere Del Ferro or the wounded Tartaglia, Cardano radiated charisma and versatility. The son of Fazio Cardano, a friend of Leonardo da Vinci, he moved through intellectual circles with natural authority. After his lecture on the relationship between bodily humors and geometric proportions, a colleague approached him. "Dr. Cardano, news from Venice. Tartaglia's victory was absolute. They say he holds the complete solution to the cubic." Cardano paused, thoughtful. Something in the mathematical air seemed to shift. He recalled childhood visits to his father's workshop, where Fazio and Leonardo had spoken in hushed tones of an ordo numeri, of harmonic principles that governed the universe. A solution held in secret, like Del Ferro's, Cardano mused. This breeds only conflict. Knowledge like this belongs to the world, brought into the light. Perhaps I can mediate. The journey to Venice took Cardano through landscapes that seemed to mirror his thoughts. Orderly vineyards giving way to wild forests, symmetrical towns nestled against chaotic coastlines. Mathematics and nature, order and chance perpetually entwined. Tartaglia's home proved modestly appointed, the quarters of a scholar, not a wealthy man. Cardano approached their meeting with carefully calculated humility. "Master Tartaglia," he bowed slightly, "your genius illuminates Italy. Such a discovery. It should be celebrated, studied, not hidden away." Tartaglia's eyes showed wariness, his scarred mouth tight. "My method is mine. One through Papain. And it should remain yours in history's eyes," Cardano assured him. "Allow me to help. With my connections, we can ensure your name is forever linked to this monumental achievement. We can restore mathematical unity." Hours passed as they spoke. Cardano was patient, persistent, weaving a vision of collaboration and recognition that slowly penetrated Tartaglia's defenses. You would not steal it? Like others me might?" Tartaglia finally asked, vulnerability momentarily overcoming caution. Cardano placed a hand over his heart, fingers brushing against a hidden Bible he carried. "I swear upon my immortal soul, Master Tartaglia, I will never publish your method without your express permission. Your secret is safe with me." Tartaglia hesitated, then reached for paper. His pen moved deliberately, capturing his method in verse form, a coded insurance policy against betrayal. As he handed it to Cardano, their eyes met in an exchange laden with unspoken calculations. Seasons changed. Tartaglia's fame from the contest faded into respectful memory, while Cardano's star rose. But in his Venice workshop, Tartaglia found no peace. The cubic equation haunted him. Night after night, it appeared in his dreams, its roots multiplying, dividing, fragmenting into infinite, screaming decimals. Sometimes it took the form of the French soldier, blade raised. Other times it appeared as Del Ferro, pointing an accusing, spectral finger. "You have opened it," the ghost whispered. "It will not close." Tartaglia woke from such dreams drenched in sweat, reaching instinctively for his calculations as if to ensure they hadn't escaped into the world of their own accord. A letter from Cardano lay on his desk, friendly, collaborative, filled with mathematical discourse. Yet Tartaglia sensed something beneath the cordial words, an ambition that might prove stronger than an oath. In Milan, Cardano's study glowed with lamplight. Books and papers covered every surface, medical treatises beside astrological charts, anatomical drawings next to pure mathematical inquiries. At the center of this intellectual storm, Cardano bent over Tartaglia's method, comparing it with papers he had acquired from Del Ferro's family. "Two paths to the same peak," he murmured, fingers tracing parallel solutions. Del Ferro's cold calculation, Tartaglia's wounded intuition, but the underlying truth, it must be unified. He began to write, pen scratching across paper with growing urgency. What emerged was not merely a republication of either method, but a synthesis, a more complete understanding of the cubic and its implications. The foundation of what would become Ars Magna. In Cardano's mind, he was pursuing knowledge's purest form. But in the shadows of his study, Unseen by human eyes, equations seemed to writhe with their own purpose. Division and unification, secrets and revelations, wounds and healings, all converging toward an inevitable mathematical collision. The cubic had found its vessels. Now it would change the course of thought itself.